Hey everyone, Mike Clark here, and today I'm with Brian Tenius of Brian Tenius and Associates, and we're going to go down some more complicated items related to business owners. There's a lot of changes in the most recent tax law, and Brian's certainly the guy to talk about it. So, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for joining me today. So, one thing I know that I imagine your industry is frustrated with my industries because typically you have to be the bearer of bad news, right? So when an individual has a taxable account, whether it be a trust account, a joint account, TOD, whatever it might be, that they have capital gains. They have realized gains from sales that we create. And sometimes my industry is not the best at communicating that to clients. So a lot of the times you have to be the bearer of bad news. How do you typically handle that when that comes about?
I always do try to compliment the investment advisor, even if they don't pass it.
All of us?
I try to.
Oh, wow.
Because the reason they're paying more taxes is because their investments are doing well, making money. That's how we spend it. So.
It should be the case.
It
About 95% of the time,
always,
you're right there. Yeah.
But again, generally, the more taxes you're paying, the more money you're making, and we try to spin it as a good thing.
Yeah.
But nobody likes to pay taxes.
Well, and I think nobody likes a surprise too.
Right.
And so one thing that Brian and I were talking about earlier that I'm trying to do is create just a basic letter that provides clients what their 2018 tax liability was on their taxable accounts, and then compare that against an estimate. We'll be sending this out at the end of the year, so it will be an estimate of what we expect it to be in 19, just so that they have a heads up, just so that, because it's not really the accountant's responsibility, the CPA's responsibility to be the burden of that bad news. And yes, it is commonly because individuals have made money, but the reality is it's a shock and it's a payment, and it's our responsibility as an industry to provide that information and to explain that to clients. So.
And another thing we tell clients, or I tell clients in that situation, is your investments are doing well, you're making a lot of money. Don't be afraid to take money out of the investment account to pay the extra taxes. That's what caused the tax liability. You shouldn't have to take it out of your current day-to-day living funds to pay taxes on investments that you're not touching.
Yeah, and I'd say one thing that can drive me nuts sometimes is you have clients that are so sensitive to paying taxes that they refuse to sell investments, even though they themselves might not have high expectations for it in the future. If they did not have a gain, they would want to sell it. And sometimes clients can have tunnel vision on just wanting to focus strictly on reducing taxes. Is it fair to say that taxes are a big part of one's growth with their investments or costs, but you also have to recognize sometimes trades just have to be made?
The investment side of your investing is more important than the tax side of your investing, because the taxes are only a percentage, generally between the federal and state, about 20% of your gains when you sell. So more important to have large gains and make money and then pay your 20% tax than lose 40% or 50% of your investment. Okay, you save some taxes, but you're really upside down when that happens. So yeah, don't be afraid to take some gains and pay some tax and take the money out of the account.
Yeah, no, I would say that one time that I'm very cognizant of trying to minimize taxes is if I have an elderly client who has had some individual stock or even a mutual fund for a long time, and they have this massive gain, and the reality is maybe they're 84, 85, and we both know there's a step-up cost basis. So just a refresher on that, if you have $800,000 of stock and your cost basis is $200,000, if you sell it today, you're taxed at that $600,000, right? But if it's sold after your date of death by a non-spouse, then you have what's called a step-up cost basis. So the cost basis is the value on the date of death. So we do have some clients that have a large amount of stocks, but the reality is they're great companies. It's not while it's a big chunk of money, it's not a massive chunk of their net worth, and therefore they're comfortable and I'm comfortable with just holding on to it in that period of time.
Or sell a little bit at a time every year.
Yeah, without a doubt. The other thing is, we're approaching Thanksgiving, so it's an opportunity to give thanks. Look at that. That was
That's very
clever.
clever.
That was
Yeah.
very clever. So, but and to give back, this is the time of the year that a lot of individuals give back, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, with the increase in the standardized deduction, a lot of people are not giving back. So, I'm sorry, they're not getting a tax deduction. So charities are seeing a reduction in the amount of giving this year. One way to give back is those appreciated stocks. So if you have, let's say $100,000 in Pfizer, and you want to give $5,000 to your local charity or church, give them $5,000 worth of Pfizer. You're doing away with the future tax liability, and you're still giving them $5,000.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah, you avoid the capital gain, you get the benefit of the deduction if you get enough.
Yeah, without a doubt. Please note that everything discussed today is meant to be for educational purposes only. Brian Tenius and I do not know you, let alone your situation, so nothing should be construed as investment or tax advice. Thanks.